everybody, and welcome. Deborah Lynn here in the studio. I hope you guys are all doing well. Today, we're going to be painting flowers in a container that's blue and white. And I have a little friend here off to the side. This is Skitty. She's my son's cat. I watch over her while he's on the road with his job. And so Skitty's going to be joining us. She was sitting in a chair directly behind me, and out of nowhere, she just jumped on my back and up onto my shoulders, and she wanted to know what I was doing. She was having no part in me having my back to her. So there's my watercolor, and there's my tray of gouache. So she was having no part in not seeing what was going on. So I invited her to sit on the desk, but she has to behave herself. So I've got some of my one-ply paper here. It's a thin toilet paper. I highly recommend using that when you are picking up puddles of water in your painting. We don't want to be using paper towels that are embossed or, that are quilted that leave an imprint. Because that wouldn't be favorable to press that into our flowers. But I am going to be using that technique on the tabletop that I'm going to be creating. So you're going to see that come into play. There's going to be a lot of twists and turns in this one. You could be yelling at me at some point saying, Deb, stop. It's perfect. Leave it right where it is. But I know where I want to take this painting. I want to take it into painting these flowers that I call cloud flowers that are made with this product, Dr. P.H. Martin Bleed Proof White. And it creates this beautiful effect, and it makes them feel very ethereal almost, but they're very vibrant. And so that's going to be coming into play. I'm going to show you how I go about doing that. And so let's get busy here. I have got a half sheet. I love working on a half a sheet of watercolor paper. This is Fabriano Artistico Extra White Cold Press 140 pounds. And it allows me to stand. I don't sit when I paint on a scale of this size. I stand up. It allows me to engage my arm, get my body in motion, puts more energy into my painting than to sit there and paint with just my fingers and my wrists. I'm engaging more of my body and my movement into my paintings. So that's gonna come into play. I've got 2 containers of clear water. When I'm using the Dr. P.H. Martin Bleed Proof White, which is a white correction material, so that means it's very thick, very opaque. It will muddy that water really fast. So you want 1 dirty water, 1 clean water. So you need 2. If you use this product, you need 2 things of water. Now, my hair is a hot mess in this video. I have fairly long hair, and it was just driving me crazy. So I just grabbed it all and threw it up in a couple clips to get it out of my way so I could see what I was doing. And so you're going to see some head shots peeking in here that look like a hot mess. Thank God they're not for very long, so they won't traumatize you. Hopefully they will not traumatize you. But if you have nightmares about it, I'm so sorry. Forgive me now. It's so bad. Oh my goodness. But you know what? It was like I could be not even put this video out there for you guys and say, you know what? I'm not even putting this out there. But you know what? This is authentically me. I'm going to put it out there. It is what it is. So now I've created my container. I put a little ellipse at the top, give a little circular motion there, a little oval. Now I'm going to drop in my blue paint. The one that I'm using is Daniel Smith's IND Throne Blue. Okay, you can use any IND Throne Blue from any manufacturer that you might have, but this color works so beautiful for those blue and white containers that you might see in the home decor. It's such a beautiful blue color that I highly recommend it. So you can see that the consistency is changing, like right there. It's a lot thinner compared to that lip, that edge of that vessel. So I'm using different consistencies in this container, and there's reasons for that, and I'll show you that. So I've got the top really dark. I'm going to go in and I'm going to run a dark band on this side right here. Okay, this is to create a shadow on that side and then along the base. So I'm emphasizing these areas while leaving the other side more bright where the light would be shining on it, okay? So now I'm going to go in with a heavy consistency of tube paint, and I'm going to drop some more, and get your head out of the way, Deb. I'm going to drop in some more of that tube paint and just randomly put down some shapes. You don't have to overthink this. And you can do whatever you want. If you want to do little zigzags, whatever you want to do. Just be creative in your own right. Maybe you want to do a little stripe container, maybe a polka dot one. You know, have fun. Just be creative. And now I'm going to take some of this Dr. P.H. Martin Bleed Proof White, and I'm going to be dropping some of this into this very highly pigmented area. And whoops, I got a little hair on the piece of paper. I'm going to grab that before we start because I don't want it to dry with the hair in there, because that would be kind of gross, right? And you would think with me piling all my hair on the top of my head that I wouldn't have hair falling out all over. That's why I pile the hair up on the top of my head to get it out of the way. And there it is, lands in my painting. So I'm just going to randomly put some white spots down. Okay, these little shapes, nothing in particular. I'm not trying to make it look like anything. So this white correction material is mixing with the blue. Automatically, it's doing its own thing. I don't have to, as it sits there, it spreads out and it mingles together and it creates another blue color, okay? And it's just the way it kind of melts together is just mesmerizing and fun, and it's so pretty. And now I'm just going to take my liner brush, one of my favorite brushes. I can't live without this brush. I love this little brush. It's just a cheapie from Hobby Lobby. And I'm just going to go in and just do some line work. It's kind of like connecting the little, if these were flowers, maybe those are stems kind of thing, you know, nothing in particular. It just kind of puts a little bit more movement on the piece and interest. You know, let the viewer interpret it however they want to interpret it. And I think that's kind of fun with art, when you have to actually try to figure out and interpret things what you think it is. And now I'm going to take a clean brush and run it right along the base there and create where it would go in, where that vessel would go in, and then it comes back out. Just kind of give it that illusion. And now I'm getting my quill. This is like the size, I think this is a size 90. Those are in my Amazon shop. You can find those in the description area. If you click on the title of my video, that has like a hyperlink kind of thing to it that'll open up, and it'll show you my description of my video, of how I describe my video, but it'll also drop in links. You'll see all the links. You'll see my Amazon links there. And that will take you into my Amazon store where I have all the products that I like to use, and you'll find these products there. So this IND Throne Blue is going down in a more thin consistency. This would be more of a tea-like consistency. So it's a very light value of the IND Throne Blue. And like that lip of that vessel would be at the highest value, okay? And the darkest value. So and this one is a little bit more of a coffee consistency. You can see going down, there's a lot more value to it. So as you can see, the values coming into play here, if you're learning about values, it's all about how much water you're using with your pigment. Okay, so if you're using a lot of water with your pigment ratio, you're going to have a light consistency. If you're using less water with your pigment, you're going to have a lot darker consistency. And we need to create darker consistencies to give us depth of field. So this is more of painting on levels, layers. We need to do layers to create our values and our depth of field, okay? We need to feel depth in our pieces, and you do that with increasing your consistency. Right there, I used a paper towel, and I just pressed it into the paper, into the wet pigment, and it created a really cute imprint, didn't it? I could go in there with some lace and do it that way, but it would be too busy with the flowers, with the container, and then a busy lace. So I wanted to keep it a little bit more subtle. That is IND Throne Blue and Bleed Proof White Dirty Water that went down. I'm trying to put that into play because there's the vessel that's blue, the tablecloth that's blue, and now I just wanted to bring a little bit of that blue up to the top of the painting to tie it all together. Now I'm going to go in and start creating some of my greens. I'm going to just use this liner brush and just do a few little stems here and get the ball rolling. Okay, so that's my painting for now. I hope you guys enjoyed it. No, we'll do a lot more than that. We'll do more than just a little thing, a few pieces of grass. We'll do more. Okay, so just making some random lines. They don't mean anything. They're just taking them off the sheet of paper, some of them. And I've got my greens. I'm using Green Appetite Genuine. Now, I use the Daniel Smith and M. Graham greens. I'm not a fan of the Magella ones. They seem a little artificial. So I'm going to be using M. Graham's Azo Green. I'm going to be using Daniel Smith's Olive Green and his Green Appetite Genuine. Those are the greens that are coming into play. So if you have some of the Magella paints and you're using some of the greens, you're probably finding out that they're not the best. So I do highly recommend just investing in a few tubes of the Daniel Smith ones. And that Azo Green is fabulous from M. Graham. And so I'm just building up the green in this container. This would be really pretty to do this with like an orchid in there. A little blue container like this with an orchid. We might have to do something like that. Now my brain, I can feel the little mice are running around in my brain as I'm sitting here thinking about orchids in a container like that. I don't know if you're like me, but I love blue and white containers like that, just for my home decor. I just absolutely love it. So if this painting would be really pretty in kind of a, what do I want to say, grand millennial decor setting, because they love their blue and white, and this would be a really pretty one in the grand millennial. And the colors that I'm using up at the top are bright clear violet. That's that dark purple. But then I've thrown in red violet. those two colors together are so beautiful. They're two of my favorite colors. Well, I love all the greens that I mentioned in the blue, and I love those two colors. Those are some of my top colors. I really need to color my hair. The sides are very gray. Maybe after I get done editing this video, I can go tackle those roots. Eek! Go color your hair, Deb. And I'm just hitting all those edges and releasing that pigment and spreading things out a little bit, building the painting up. I do have a video. I do have a video that is called Bumping Edges. If you want to learn how to loosen up your flowers like that, please go check out that video. That will get a little bit more in depth with bumping edges. That's what I call it anyway, because that's what you do. You bump the edge with your brush, and it releases everything. And now I'm just bringing some of that bright clear violet down to the bottom, just kind of balancing out the weight of what I'm feeling here. And of course, all of this is going to be changing as the painting goes along. But as you can see, as it's progressing here, I could probably stop at about this point. I could add just a few more finishing touches here and there, and this could be a painting to this point. So if you don't want to go and do the full-blown tutorial in doing the cloud flowers, if you feel that might be a little bit too advanced for you, you could go to this point and stop right there. So it's just an idea for you, okay? So, and if you're fairly new to painting and you want to learn how to do these cloud flowers, just get a sheet of paper and just make random little flower shapes and play around with it and see how it all works for you before you start investing in a big sheet of paper and building a vessel and all the flowers and all that. Just kind of play around with it and experiment and get to know the products. That's what I would suggest. But you take all these tips and tricks and then you go fly, you go have fun. And I'm just dropping in some more of that pigment. And I'm just making some little flower shapes. And that's just I believe, a round brush that I'm using there. And let's see. I'm putting in some of that red violet right now. And I have my gouache. This is the Magello gouache. Let me talk to you about the Magello gouache if you haven't. So you can see how opaque it is. It's extremely heavy. Let me see, what color is this? Let me look at my little graph here that I have. I think this one is Quin Violet. I'm pretty, yeah, that looks like Quin Violet. I think that's what I'm using here. It's very, very opaque. It's very heavy, but I need that thick, heavy consistency. And I am using it and in this way because I'm going to be putting that white correction material over it. And I need those two wet, heavy consistencies to come together and blend together and to mingle together and do unique effects. So you do want the proper amount of water, you do need the proper amount of pigment, and your pH Martin is better if it has just a little bit of water in it versus something that's just, you just opened up the jar and it's brand new. Every time you dip your brush into the pH Martin, that water then ends up being added to that container, and it slowly will loosen up more and more and become a little bit thinner, but it's a little bit easier to use as you move along. When you first get it, it's a little bit thick. So what I do when it's really thick like that is, of course, my brush is wet, it's clean, it's wet, and then I dip it into the pH Martin that's thick, but then it's too thick that it's not going to come off my brush right. So then I dip it back in the water, just the tip of it, just a little bit, and then I go to the workspace. So that helps loosen it up a little bit so it's not so heavy. But as I said, the more you use the jar of pH Martin, the thinner it becomes because more water is being added to it. It is not, I've contacted the company and talked to them about it and asked them, what is this? Is this gouache? Is it ink? Is it gouache? What is it? Because so many people are saying, it's an ink, it's an ink. It's not an ink. It's a watercolor. They told me that it is pigment and water. And they said it is not a gouache. And it can be used to cover up mistakes or any other thing that an artist would like to use it for. I think their packaging does state that you really shouldn't use it for painting purposes or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what it says, but I always break the rules, and I've never had a problem with that at all. It actually makes absolutely stunning effects. So you're going to thank me for these cool effects that you can do. So please like and subscribe. That would be really nice if you could do that. That helps me in the YouTube community. And if you're on a social media and you do one of these pieces, please tag me so I can see what you're working on. Because if you just say my name, I'm not going to see it. But I think if you put the @ sign at Deborah Lynn Rosenbach, I might see it, or is it hashtag? I'm not sure. You guys probably know better than I am, and better than me. Somehow tag me to it so I can see what you're doing, or you can join my Facebook group, and you can always, anything that you've worked on within the YouTube channel, you can post that. Or if you're building your art and you've been inspired by me, you can build your art. But if you're doing random stuff like you're painting ducks and we've never done anything with ducks and you're painting ducks or something like that, I don't really allow all that to kind of, I want my group to just be full of landscapes and flowers at this point. There are some other things that have trickled in along the way, and that's fine as long as that's what we're working on in the group, or if we're working with something online. So that's the only thing I request. Right now I am using the Ranger product. It is a spray gloss. It's acrylic. So this piece has now gone from watercolor to mixed media by just putting that little bit in. I've completely changed my painting. And did it need to happen? No, but I always like that little extra pop of color somewhere. So this is kind of has a little bit of a cerulean blue color to it. It's called Ocean, and it's really beautiful. It's a nice one to have. And that's the tip right there. Put it in the water, clean the tip off, then put the lid on. If there's water in the lid, leave the water in the lid and put it away. It won't leak. Leave it in there because it helps it from clogging, because that moisture will keep it wet. Because what happens with acrylic when it dries, it's forget it. You're not going to be ever you're never going to be able to spray with that bottle ever again. So that's the tip to those sprays. Make sure you clean it and keep it wet and seal it. Okay, so I'm just doing a little bit of line work again. I'm going to be dropping in some yellows here in a minute. And the yellow that I'll be dropping in, let's get ahead of ourselves here. Permanent Yellow Deep will be coming into play here in just a moment. And I'm using a gouache. So that means it's a lot more opaque. A lot heavier in consistency. Pulling off some of the pigment there so I can drop in some center so I can see what's going on. And I do want to do a video for you and talk about flower centers. I'm going to do something for you. It'll be a smaller video, or maybe it'll be a longer one. Who knows? Once I get talking. And now I'm shaking some of that yellow down. And after I did that, it was like, I don't like it. Yeah, it was bugging me. I guess that spray and the yellow, it was just, I don't know, it just wasn't jiving with me. But that's okay, because as I move forward, I'm not getting all bummed out about it or upset or anything like that, because I know as I progress, I'm going to all of this is going to be lightened up. There's going to be this white watercolor that's going to be coming onto the top of a lot of these flowers. So that's all got to be built yet. So this painting does go through a lot of different twists and turns. And now I am just blotting off some of this pigment because it is, although I want it to be heavy, it may be a little bit too heavy in certain spots. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm just lightening the load here a little bit. I'm going to paint with that tail real soon. What do you guys think? Should I paint with her tail? She would not like that. She's so cute. She's a good cat. Okay, so I have this is where we're going to get into making the flowers now with the white. So I'm going to start dropping in some of this white and just start working it in. And I'll make sense of it here in a little bit, but I'm just going to get going with it. And what happens is that white on top of those pigments, it kind of changes into a gouache. It's not gouache, but it's very opaque and very creamy white. So if it's got a little bit of green with it, it's like a light green. If it's got violets, like a light violet like there. It's really pretty. It really is pretty. And I'm just adding a little bit more white and just pushing that brighter white there. And just loosening that up. And as you can see in the background, there's still that very dark value. So you've got the very light from the white, but there's still dark values back there. And then there, I'm just breaking up that yellow a little bit. It's kind of like painting with acrylic almost, where you put the white on the top. And I've been playing around with acrylics lately too, and I've been having, it's been the hardest medium for me. And I get really frustrated with acrylic really fast. And they had canvases at Michael's here in the U.S. for 70% off last 2 weeks ago. And I stocked up and I got some canvases and stuff. So I've been playing around with acrylics a little bit on the side and having fun with that, teaching myself acrylics. So you might see some acrylics coming into play here too at the channel, because I don't like to close myself into just being known as a watercolorist. I'm a watercolor and mixed media. I like all mediums. I like to play in it all. I don't like to lock myself into one specific thing, although watercolor is my main focus. Okay, so it looks a little bit chaotic right now, but as I keep going, I'll tie it all together. I'll make it work. So it's just a matter of having patience when you're painting too, because sometimes we analyze and we're saying, oh, this is just a hot mess. I'm just throw it away. Sometimes it's just a matter of keep going. Okay, and I get those points a lot. It's like, just keep going. And I'm like, the other part of my mind is saying, it's ugly, throw it away. And the other, logical part is just like, you know what? You just need to keep going. And usually when I fight through that, I'm correct. I just needed to keep going because it ends up being beautiful. And whatever flower that is, not quite sure. And I'm just making some little flowers here. Those were those little yellow spots. I'm just going to activate that yellow and kind of build some little flowers from it. And just kind of make it work. Do something with it. There's a couple there, and there's a couple there. Now I'm just going to use the very tip of that brush and just make some fine lines, like little spiky flower petals. Just to add some texture. We've got up in that top right, there's a spiky one. At the bottom left, there's now a spiky one. And just dropping a little bit more white in. And now I'm just going to bring some of that white into the stem work. And building out that flower a little bit there. I actually like painting these cloud flowers. I think they're just not clown flowers, cloud flowers. That's what I call them. There's no such thing, except for in my world there is. Okay, so I'm making some like little variegated flowers here. This is by, okay, so there's white down, and now I'm just dropping in some pink gouache on top of it, and it kind of makes some cool effects on top of the white and kind of gives it a little bit of variegated look. It's really pretty. I do in the right there in the middle, I do back out some pigment. I wipe a bunch of it away because I felt like this needed one big king flower. It needed a main focal flower. And I'm going to build that here in just a minute. You're going to see me back out some of this right there. I'm going to back that all out, and I'm going to rebuild this area. So you're seeing how I go about doing this. And I'm just going to get some heavy, thick gouache. And I'm just going to get a flower down here and build. I'm going to make our king flower. We got kings and queens and subjects. So this is going to be our king. I'm going to overlap it a little bit, just a little bit more. I don't get it yet. It will eventually, it will kind of overlap onto the vessel just a little bit. So it's kind of draped over it. And the brushes that I'm using here, they're Escoda, I never know how to say it, brushes. And putting some of that yellow down, building that all up. So filling that all in. And now I'm just picking up some pigment. Some variation there. Cleaning my brush, and I'm going to get some of that bleed proof white. And now we're going to make the king flower. This is so much fun to do this. Clean the brush. It's a matter of keeping that white. Don't want it to get too full of color. Clean the brush. Get more white. There we go. And this gets a little murky there because it's getting into the purple and the green. And I kind of will it's not quite right there. As you can see, it's getting gray. So that's not good. So I have to rebuild that. That'll happen here in a minute. So I'll be backing that all off because it went gray on us. So that's when you have to, when you get into those trouble situations where things turning gray and the vibrancy has been lost, you got to figure out how to get out of it, get rid of it, and rebuild it. Okay, now I'm going to remove that so I can rebuild. So what do you do to rebuild? You get more pigment. I need more of that red or pink color. There we go. I'm just going to drop that in. Now I can rebuild that. Clean the brush. Clean the brush again. And now get some of the white. And now I can maybe just need just a little bit more white. Do we need a little bit more? I guess not. So there's the king flower in the arrangement, meaning that's the main flower in our subject. And he wasn't there just moments ago. He had to be brought in. They brought in a new king. Okay, so this flower was feeling like it needed to just be brought into play here. So I'm just going to fill that area out. And just going in and creating a little bit of depth here. It's all about layer after layer after layer. Now I'm just taking some of that white and just putting in just a couple little highlights in those centers. You don't want to go all the way around the flower because then that would just be weird. Just a little bit here and there where when their sunlight might be catching light. I do a lot of tapping when I paint, don't I? Tap, 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 tap. And I've got my liner out. Now I'm going to connect these little flowers that are off to the side that were little yellow spots that I put the blue in, or put the white in and made little buds. So now I'm just going to kind of connect them all with some green. Kind of make sense of what they are. And I've got more yellow. Now I'm going to build up the center on this flower at the top. And I'm just going to let it sit there for a minute. I'm not going to play around with it. It needs to just sit there and spread out a little bit and do its thing. We don't want to over manipulate the paints. We want to get them down and then don't really want to touch them that much. And if you do, you got to be very careful. You have to work with a little bit of a lighter touch. If you work heavy-handed, you're probably going to have mud. Nice hair, Deb. Nice clip. What a mess. Look at how pretty that white flower is now. She's so pretty. She's shining. So now I'm pushing the white even more. I want the other flowers to just have a little bit more white vibrancy to them. So here we go. There we go. Just needed just a little bit more. Kind of make it feel like there's a little kind of a daisy there. And this flower has got a lot of layers on it already, but I just keep going. I put the pigment on there and then I took the pigment off because I decided I'm just going to throw some yellow down here. Kind of let it do its thing, kind of make it feel like the other flowers a little bit. Building up the green just a little bit there. Needed to be intensified. And I'm letting that yellow in that top right flower, kind of let that yellow kind of flow a little bit down or up, how you want to say. And it does, it does do, oh, guess who's back? And I've got my spray ink out here. Now I have that spray ink in the back. Now I'm just going to put just a little bit on the top. You got to be very careful when you spray with this because you don't want it to blast out because then you're going to, yeah, you're not going to be happy. So I try to push the trigger real slow and be very careful with it. And then I get the top wet and then seal it. And pretty much this is my painting. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. It was a pleasure meeting with you guys here and giving you these tips and tricks. I cannot wait to see what you create in a blue and white container. Please come over to my Facebook group and show me what you've been working on with what you've been learning here at my channel. Please drop my name in any of the groups if you happen to post over there. Please let them know where you learned the techniques, and I would greatly appreciate it if you also would like, hit the like button. That helps me in the community. You can also hit the share button or hit the bell. That will notify you when I post a new tutorial. And if you're not sure how to subscribe, you probably need to create an account, and then you'll probably see how to be able to subscribe. So you'll see the subscribe button. So one of the things is making just an easy account, just like you would with Facebook or Instagram or anything else. You just need to come up with a generic screen name and a password, and you are ready to rock and roll and start creating your own following on YouTube. So you guys stay safe, stay well, and God bless. Bye for now.